Usually when we talk about being lost, there's this expectation of a really simple, practical solution.
Right, like getting a map.
Exactly. You take a wrong turn in some unfamiliar neighborhood, your phone reroutes you, the little blue line updates on your screen, and you just follow the synthesized voice telling you to take the next right.
Yeah, you need information, the map provides it, and the anxiety just sort of dissipates.
Yep.
It is a completely transactional experience.
It really is.
We are conditioned to believe that direction is just, well, a matter of acquiring the right data points.
Yeah.
Go here, turn there, arrive at the destination.
But the moment you step into the realm of spiritual navigation or like ultimate purpose or existential dread, that GPS just vanishes.
Yeah, the screen goes blank.
Completely blank. And suddenly we are forced to look at a landscape that is entirely relational instead of directional. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today is Sunday, May 3, 2026.
Yes, and for those of you observing the liturgical calendar with us, it is the fifth Sunday of Easter.
Right. And today we're looking at a text that confronts this exact tension head on. We're diving into the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 1 through 12.
And our mission for this deep dive is to explore one of the most profound, intimate, and frankly, mind-bending conversations recorded in history.
Mind-bending is definitely the right word for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jesus is talking with his closest disciples just hours before his arrest. And he's doing two things simultaneously here. He is addressing their profound, paralyzing anxieties about the future.
Which were massive.
Massive. And at the same time, he's making some of the most staggering claims about his own identity found anywhere in the biblical text. It is just this intense collision of human emotion and heavy theological density.
Yeah, to really understand the weight of this text, you have to imagine the atmosphere in that room. It's the Last Supper. The disciples have left their careers, their families, and, their social standing to follow this man for 3 years.
They've given up everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
They are politically and religiously targeted at this point. And now the air in the room is thick with this suffocating dread because Jesus has just told them he's leaving and, well, they can't follow him.
Right?
Plus, he's also just predicted that Peter, their rock, will deny him. The bottom has completely fallen out of their universe.
It's pure panic.
It is. And right in the middle of that heavy, terrified silence, Jesus looks at his friends and says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me."
What's fascinating here is how he begins. He does not start with a lofty theological discourse. He starts directly at the epicenter of their psychological state.
Right, their troubled hearts.
Exactly. The Greek word used there for troubled is tarasso, which describes water that is violently agitated or like whipped up by a storm.
Oh, wow. So their internal world is basically a hurricane.
It's a Category 5 hurricane. And Jesus is asking for a radical transfer of trust right in the middle of that storm. By saying, believe in God, believe also in me, he is effectively equating belief in the unseen creator of the universe with belief in himself, the flesh and blood man sitting across the table from them.
Which is a huge deal.
To a first-century Jewish ear, that is an earth-shattering claim.
It's a massive leap to ask of anyone, especially people who are currently panicking. But then he follows it up. He says, "In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also."
It's such a comforting image.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this because the imagery he uses to cushion that huge claim is so domestic and relatable. It reminds me of a parent who has to move the family to a completely new, unfamiliar city across the country.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. So the parent travels to the new city a month ahead of the rest of the family. They go early to set up the house, turn on the utilities, unbox the kitchen pots and pans.
Literally make the beds.
Exactly. They make the beds. So when the family finally arrives, exhausted and totally disoriented from the journey, they don't have to scramble in the dark to figure out how the lights work. The place is completely prepared for them. Jesus is essentially saying, I am going into the dark ahead of you to turn the lights on.
And that shifts the disciples' focus from their immediate earthly distress to a guaranteed, prepared future. He is reframing their current crisis, which is his impending death and departure, in the light of an eternal homecoming.
He's giving them an anchor.
Yes, he is trying to show them that his leaving is not an abandonment, it is a necessary preparation. He is securing their ultimate destination.
But, he offers this beautiful, reassuring image of a prepared home. But human brains under extreme stress do not process metaphors very well.
No, they really don't.
The disciples are spiraling, and they are entirely stuck on the practical logistics. Jesus says, "And you know the way to where I am going," but they're clearly thinking, "We don't even have a zip code."
They want the GPS coordinates.
Yes. This visceral need for concrete logistics brings us to Thomas.
Thomas is the ultimate pragmatist. He is listening to this poetic promise of a prepared place, but his mind is desperately searching for an itinerary. He voices the literal confusion in the room. He says, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?"
And honestly, you can't really blame Thomas here.
Not at all.
Think about your own life when you are facing an uncertain future, like a career change, a medical diagnosis, a major move. When someone says, "Don't worry, you know the way," your immediate response is, "No, I don't. Give me the street name. Give me the coordinates."
Yeah, you want a step-by-step plan.
Exactly. Thomas expects a map, and he is just saying what everyone else in the room is feeling. But how does Jesus handle that? Because he flips the concept of away from being a set of directions to being an actual person.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to view Thomas's question through the lens of his cultural and historical reality.
What do you mean?
Well, for centuries, first-century Judaism operated on a very specific, highly detailed way to approach God. It was geographically bound to the temple in Jerusalem.
Oh, right, the physical location.
Exactly. And it was behaviorally bound to the 613 laws of the Torah. It was this comprehensive system of sacrifices, rituals, and ethical codes. It was quite literally a massive checklist and a map.
So Thomas is just functioning entirely within that centuries-old paradigm.
Yes, he wants the new checklist. He wants to know the method.
But Jesus' response completely shatters that entire framework. He does not hand Thomas a map or a new set of rules. He drops this iconic, absolute statement. He says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me."
It's breathtaking, really.
It is. He says, "If you had known me, you would have known my Father also. From now on, you do know him and have seen him." He takes the concept of a way, which for them was a path or a method, and turns it into a person.
He is completely dismantling their expectation of a formula. The way to God is no longer a philosophy you learn, a geographical location you visit, or a moral checklist you complete. It is a relationship.
A living relationship.
Right. By declaring I am the way, he claims an exclusivity and an intimacy that just rewires their understanding of the divine. He merges the destination, the Father, with the journey himself. The radical assertion here is that knowing him is synonymous with knowing God. He is the bridge.
The absoluteness of saying, "I am the way and the truth and the life," is just staggering. It's not, I can show you the way, or I have discovered some truth, or I know the secret to life.
He embodies them.
Exactly. He embodies them. But Jesus has just established a reality that the human brain really struggles to compute. He is claiming that looking at him, a human being who gets tired and hungry, is exactly the same as looking at the omnipotent creator.
The cognitive dissonance in that room must have been deafening.
Deafening. And the very next question exposes just how hard it is to grasp the concept of an invisible God being present in a visible person.
Right, because Philip steps right into that dissonance.
Yeah.
Jesus has just explicitly stated, "From now on, you do know him and have seen him." And Philip immediately responds, "Lord, show us the Father, and it is enough for us."
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's an incredibly bold demand. It's like Philip is looking at a world-renowned masterpiece painting. The colors, the brushstrokes, the raw emotion, it is all right there, flawlessly expressing the heart and mind of the artist.
Yeah.
But instead of taking in the painting, Philip keeps grabbing the museum guide and saying, "This painting is nice, but bring out the artist. I won't be satisfied until you pull the artist out here."
And the guide would say the painting is the expression of the artist. You are looking at their vision right now.
Exactly. Philip is staring at the ultimate masterpiece of God's revelation, and he is asking to bypass it to see the creator.
To build on that analogy, think about the mechanics of the incarnation, like an electrical transformer on a power grid.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So the infinite, uncontainable God of the universe is like a massive, raw power grid carrying millions of volts.
Right, an unimaginable amount of energy.
Exactly. If you try to plug a standard living room lamp directly into a high-voltage power line, the lamp will instantly explode.
Because it just can't handle the load.
Right. The human mind and body cannot process the unfiltered, infinite reality of God. It would completely obliterate us. So a transformer's job is to take that immense lethal power and step it down into a localized, usable 120 volts that can safely light up a room.
Oh, wow. So Jesus in the incarnation is the transformer.
Precisely. He is stepping down the infinite, uncontainable nature of God into a localized human medium that we can actually comprehend, touch, and understand without being destroyed.
And Philip is basically asking to bypass the transformer and stare directly into the high voltage grid.
He wants a theophany. He wants a burning bush or a pillar of fire.
And Jesus' response carries this deep, loving frustration. He says, "Have I been with you so long, and you still do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'?"
You can almost hear the heartbreak in his voice.
Yeah, you really can. He goes on, "Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does his works."
Jesus is explaining a profound theology of mutual indwelling here. The union is so complete that to hear Jesus speak is to hear God speak. To watch Jesus heal a leper or forgive a sinner is to watch God do those exact things.
There's no separation.
None. There is no hidden, terrifying God behind the curtain who acts differently than Jesus does. Jesus is the exact step-down translation of the Father's character.
And he offers a really gracious concession to them. He says, "Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or else believe on account of the works themselves."
Like, if the theology is too much, look at the evidence.
Right. If you can't wrap your head around the invisible theological reality of mutual indwelling, just look at the visible evidence. Look at the blind seeing, the lame walking, the outcasts being restored. Let the tangible actions be the proof of the divine source.
So Jesus has firmly established that he is the localized, physical presence of God on earth. But he knows that physical proximity is coming to an end within a matter of hours.
Yes, the clock is ticking.
So the critical question becomes, how does that divine presence in action continue once he is gone? That is where he makes a staggering pivot away from his own miracles and focuses directly on what the disciples will do next.
Wait, stop. I have to interrupt here because verse 12 is where my brain completely halts.
The famous greater works promise.
Yes. Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these will he do, because I am going to the Father." So what does this all mean? Greater works.
It sounds like a stretch, doesn't it?
I mean, I am sorry, but he just raised a man from the dead a few chapters ago. He walked on water. He multiplied bread to feed thousands. How are a bunch of terrified fishermen and tax collectors going to top raising the dead? That sounds completely absurd.
If you measure greater simply by the spectacular cinematic nature of a miracle, then yes, it sounds impossible. If greater means parting two oceans instead of walking on one, we have completely missed the point.
Okay, so what is the point?
This raises an important question, and the key to unlocking this massive promise lies in the causal link he provides at the very end of the sentence. He says, "Because I am going to the Father."
Okay, unpack the because. Why does his leaving make their works greater?
Think about the limitations of the incarnation. While Jesus was on earth in his physical body, his ministry was bound by time and space. He was localized.
Right, he could only be in one town at one time.
Exactly. He could only speak to the crowd standing immediately in front of him. He could only touch the one person reaching out to him. His redemptive work was contained within the borders of first-century Palestine.
He was subject to the same physical geography we are.
Precisely. But when he returns to the Father, a monumental shift occurs. He is no longer localized. By going to the Father, he is able to unleash his Spirit, his very presence and power, across every single believer in every nation, across all subsequent centuries simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
The greater works refer to the sheer scope, scale, and global multiplication of his mission.
So it's not greater in terms of, like, flashier magic tricks. It is greater in terms of sheer volume and global transformation.
Look at the historical record of the early church in the book of Acts.
Yeah.
During his entire earthly ministry, Jesus had a relatively small group of followers.
Yeah, a few dozen, maybe a few hundred at most.
But on the day of Pentecost, empowered by the Spirit, Peter preaches one sermon and 3,000 people are brought into the fold in a single afternoon.
That is a greater work.
It is. The message of salvation breaks out of Jerusalem, spreads across the Roman Empire, and eventually reaches the ends of the earth. Jesus is saying, I started the fire in this one fireplace in Judea. But when I go to the Father, you are going to take this fire and spread it across the entire globe.
That's incredible.
The ongoing massive scale of the church's mission, spanning millennia and transforming billions of lives, is the greater work.
It completely reframes how we view our own lives, doesn't it? We often feel so insignificant, dealing with our localized problems or small spheres of influence.
We all feel that way sometimes.
But this text argues that whoever believes is plugged into that exact same power grid. The everyday works of charity, the acts of forgiveness, the spreading of hope in our own communities, they are part of this sweeping global multiplication that Jesus inaugurated.
Absolutely.
He moves from "don't let your hearts be troubled" to "you're about to execute a massive world-changing operation and you will have the exact power needed to do it."
It is the ultimate synthesis. He takes a room full of people paralyzed by localized fear, who are demanding physical maps and visible proof, and he turns them into the vehicles for his global presence.
Looking back over this conversation, the journey we've taken through this text is just incredible. We didn't just walk through a list of disciples asking questions. We watched a profound psychological and spiritual shift.
We really did.
It started with an intense dread of the unknown, prompting Thomas to demand a geographical map to navigate the void. Jesus countered by revealing that the map isn't a parchment, it's a living relationship with him.
Right.
Then Philip demanded to bypass that relationship to see the raw, unfiltered power of God, and Jesus revealed that he is the perfect, safe translation of that power. And finally, instead of just comforting them, he empowered them.
Yes.
The localized physical presence they were terrified of losing was about to be multiplied inside of them, enabling a global revolution of grace.
As we conclude this exploration, I want you, the listener, to mull over a final thought. We easily recognize the short-sightedness in Thomas and Philip, but consider your own life today.
That's a good challenge.
When you are feeling lost, when your heart is genuinely troubled by the future, and you are desperately asking, "What is the way?" Or, "Show me the proof," how often are you entirely overlooking the peace and the presence that are already right in front of you? How often are we furiously demanding a map when we are already standing right next to the guide?
That is the lingering question, isn't it? Demanding a map when the guide is holding your hand changes everything about how we approach the unknown. As we close our deep dive today, let's transition into a short concluding prayer that reflects the truths we've uncovered in this gospel passage.
That sounds perfect.
Lord Jesus, you are the way, the truth, and the life. When our hearts are troubled and agitated by the storms of life, help us to trust completely in you. Guide us to the place you have prepared, and give us the grace and the courage to do the greater works you have called us to do in this world. Amen. Thank you for joining us for this exploration today. We love digging into these sources, unpacking the historical context, and finding these incredible layers together. We invite you back for our next deep dive tomorrow. Until then, take care and keep asking those great questions.